beggars. We need to be producers, and being producers means you need to take care of your own. And that's the reason why we are supporting the pizza man. The pizza man, indeed. The pizza man, indeed. But we are also, and I normally don't make endorsements for candidates. I just don't do it. It's bad for business, as you know. In order to come on the Commiss Radio Show, it exists because of people like you who support the Commiss Radio Show. I don't have these big contracts with people. I have to go out and ask people to, hey, support the Commiss Radio Show. We do have a way in which you can give through PayPal. In order to keep this moving on, go through PayPal. I don't make any money off of this because guess what? I have a real job. Well, every job is real if you're putting forth a full effort to it. But anyway, this is not how I support my family. I support my family otherwise. But I support you by putting this show on. And that's the reason why we are supporting good governance in Fort Worth. And I would like to say right now, so far I have seen a lot of disappointment. You know, Horace Greeley said, go west, young man. Obviously, he didn't go to Fort Worth. So, that being said, you are running for mayor of Fort Worth.
Yes, I am, Ed Gray. And let me just tell you, I love the fact that I'm on your show, and I consider you a friend. But I also loved your tagline that this show goes from Como to the Congo. And so let me talk a little bit about what I call Como, Texas, because it exemplifies why I'm running for mayor of the city of Fort Worth. Como is a community on the west side of Fort Worth. It was originally created by those who don't look like us to house their maids and butlers and cooks. But over time, Como evolved into this amazing community of not only black professionals, but black blue-collar folks, black working-class folks, and they created this great ecosystem where they were supporting each other. Their whole life is now at risk from something called gentrification. That land is now prime real estate property. It sits in the heart of the west side. And I just believe that we have seen too many communities like this, communities of color, whether they're black or brown, that have pulled themselves up, created this vibrant community, only to see it be destroyed by people who want that land, who are not interested in helping to grow that diversity in that community. And so that's one of the reasons I'm running, is that Fort Worth is a very diverse city, but we are losing a lot of that diversity by the actions or the inactions that those in power are taking. Our communities are being neglected, and so I want to tell you, it's not just black and brown communities, it's working class communities. If you don't have money, you don't get to make positive change to your community, and I think that's just wrong.
So right now, what's happening now, you see that is the situation that got you to run.
That's right.
What are you going to do once you go?
So you have to change the dynamics of leadership and power. So let me just talk about a few key things that happen in Fort Worth. I was listening to Albert Black talk about what's going on in Dallas. So number one, in Fort Worth, there's no such thing as term limits. The city of Arlington recently enacted term limits. The city of Dallas has term limits. In the city of Fort Worth, people are free to rule as long as they have the money to rule and will power. And so we now have a mayor and a city council who amass large sums of money, and what that does is deters most people from running. There are great activists in the community who would make a great impact on Fort Worth, but number one, they don't have the money. So it took somebody to stand up and say, look, I don't have a lot of money. I'm not like Al Black. I'm not independently wealthy, but I believe that sometimes you have to stand up to power. So I think the first thing you got to do is try to change the face of power by my running. But then you have to tackle the tough issues. I mean, when I look at things like infrastructure, there are whole communities that don't have good infrastructure. They don't have good jobs. They don't have anything like that. We don't have good transportation, Ed. How do you get to some of these jobs? You know, they talk about even if Amazon came to Fort Worth, they'd probably move way out to Alliance. How do people even get to those jobs? Alliance is north of Fort Worth. It's probably what we think of the center of the city, Alliance is about 20-25 miles from there, and there's no real good public transportation out there. So even if you brought it, people have to be able to get to jobs. The other thing is you got to have a decent wage. So, our mayor likes to boast that we're the 15th largest city in the country, and she's been doing a lot of work to bring businesses there. But you know what? They've been bringing jobs that only pay $15, $16 an hour. Now, if you're sitting out there and you're only making minimum wage, you go, that's a great job. But I'm going to tell you, that's really not a living wage. You can't buy a house, you can't buy groceries, you can't feed your family, you can't tie to your church. I mean, there's a whole lot that we need higher paying jobs. There are jobs that pay, $30, $40, $50 an hour. Those are the jobs we need to be bringing to Fort Worth. And there's something that says every day in about 2008, that almost 200,000 people leave the city of Fort Worth to go look for jobs. Now, of course, people come back in, but those are people who don't look like you, me and you, because our people are not trained to get these higher paying jobs. We need to fix that.
Now, let's talk about your system of justice in Fort Worth. And that's been my major hang-up.
Okay.
About injustice, where it reigns supreme. It seems like it's in Tarrant County. Reigns supreme, you have a queen or a king that's running it, and you didn't say that, I said that. Your police system in Fort Worth seems to be run amok. Now, I've tweeted, you can follow me on Twitter, what you do, Ed Gray 1906. And this is one of the things I've said about Fort Worth, which is a sticking point with me, is that when you can sentence, and I know you didn't do it, but when you can sentence someone to go to jail for a provisional ballot,
absolutely.
And then the people who are doing that are part of that same power structure. The DA, the mayor, they all run hand in hand with that. How do we change that? How do we change that dynamic?
By electing people who think differently. So let me talk about the criminal justice system, because there are two pieces to it. You have the city piece, and that's the police, and I'm going to talk about that. And then you have the county structure, and that's our DA, and that's where that young woman got sentenced to prison and through the federal system. But let me just talk about the police department very quickly. And so I know that a lot of people now are asking that there be a citizens review board. And so I do believe there needs to be police oversight, but more importantly, Ed, I talk to people about, we just can't always be on the back end talking about what's happening on the back end, because let me tell you, they just fired 5 policemen because an African-American gentleman died in their custody. So everybody was praising it as a great and wonderful thing that happened. But for those of us who understand civil service and any kind of organized labor, those policemen are going to file a grievance. And so look at me, and y'all can write it down and take it to the bank that Deborah Peoples said on this day that in a few years we're going to be out protesting because they're going to get their jobs back. I mean, that's the way this grievance process works. Every disciplinary action that has been taken by the city of Fort Worth against policemen has been overturned. I mean, we just got through protesting where a police officer was brought back on the job. So you can't just work on the back end, you got to be out in the front end. We don't have, most of those specialized police units don't have people that look like me and you. When they talk about adequate training, adequate recruiting, all of that. So you got to have a plan at Fort Worth that attacks the front end and the back end. I don't mind getting out there and protesting the decisions that are made that they're wrong, but we got to start impacting those in the very beginning. The City of Fort Worth's Race and Culture Task Force said, well, we need to hire 30 new cadets, and because most of these departments aren't integrated, and the city's still thinking about it. I mean, something that's just as basic as saying, yeah, we need to hire people that look like me and you and blue-collar working people, and they're still debating it. They're still thinking about it.
But wasn't it a good thing to have a race and cultural task force? It sounds nice. I'd like to see a race and cultural task force, but what did they actually do?
Nothing. you could have come, let me tell you something. If you wanted effective race and culture task force, you didn't need to get all the halves to be on that committee. And let me be sure y'all understand, I know most of those people and I really like them, but they're not the people that are living with poverty and not being able to catch a bus line and not having a grocery store in their neighborhood. You could have gone down to any corner in District 5 or District 8 or 2 and asked somebody what are the real problems that you have, and they could have told you in 5 minutes. It didn't take a year and a half to get this group of who's who people together to talk about what was wrong and to come up with a solution. You could have walked out and talked to any brother or sister on the corner and they could have told you, and we could have been moving out with that. So for me, it was a big publicity stunt.
Did they have any Abduls or anything like that on there?
No.
I mean, they didn't have no, I'm just saying real, and I've served on committees like this before. It's the same group of people that like each other and go out and get pizza from the pizza man afterwards, but then when it's all said and done with, it's more said and nothing done.
You hit the nail on the head. There's some wonderful people that I know that I like as individuals, but if you're really trying to impact what is wrong, you go to the people who are having the problem, not the people who are recipients of the largest of the major community. And so I have always said, if that committee wasn't working bottoms up, then it couldn't be effective. And it's nothing against many of the people on that committee. One of them told me they worked in silos. They divided into groups, and so if you were on the education committee, you never talked to the criminal justice committee, or if you were on the healthcare committee, you didn't ever talk to anybody on the education committee. These things are systemic and they are intertwined, and how you think you can come up with a solution over here that's not going to have ramifications over here is absolutely mind-boggling.
Now, it seems like you're running as a social activist. I don't have any problem with that. I personally don't. But how can you connect with people who are not social activists?
Okay, so here's the thing. I worked for a major corporation for 34 years. I understand how to work in the system. But when I look at the problems that Fort Worth has, and I look at where the myriad of them are, they are around social justice issues. And if you're ever going to fix a city, you've got to pay attention to those issues. So Ed, I am not anti-business. Anybody who knows me knows that, that's why I made my living working for a big business for 34 years. I understand you need business, but I also understand that business has to bring something to the table. Business can't always be a taker. It's got to bring something to the table, and it works to their advantage. If I come and put some technical jobs and come up and put some $30,000, $40,000 a year jobs where I can hire black and brown people or lower income white residents to take those jobs, that means those people will stay on those jobs, good retention, they buy homes in the neighborhood, they become consumers and users of that good, so it's a win-win for businesses. So, I think if you take care of things like health care, then you don't have so many people that are sick or calling in or putting a burden on, public health systems. I just think social issues have major impacts and ramifications on the large overall health of a city.
Now, you had mentioned health care.
Uh-huh.
Do we have any healthcare issues in Fort Worth?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm the 15th largest city in the United States.
Goodness. Oh, listen, Fort Worth used to lead in infant mortality rate. I mean, we just did a bond election at JPS that passed, to go, and that's our public health hospital. But there are whole issues. When we look at the issue around diabetes and what's happening over there with the incidence of prostate cancer and things, yes, we have major health issues. And we also, Texas also leads the way in the most uninsured. And so for us to think that we don't have health problems is another mind-boggling thing to me. We have problems in education. We have problems in health care. We have major problems in transportation. We have major issues with affordable housing. Those are all things that impact the greater community.
All right. And we're going to carry this conversation on. I know we started it off at Tommy's Burgers in Fort Worth.
Yes, we did.
A great time over at Tommy's Burgers, and we also brought the pizza man to be with us here at the Fishbowl Radio Network. And oh, by the way, Sammy, we weren't eating inside the studio. We know the rules on that. We were in the green room, eating in the green room. Hey, we got a green room now. It's also known as the kitchen. But anyway, where are we going to be next at?
We're going to be at Madia's, another small business, a family-owned restaurant that, and so Madia is named for somebody who was near and dear to my heart, okay? Her name was Addie Pinson. She grew up and ran a business, a small business on the north side of Fort Worth. She was a hairdresser. And so anybody who came to Fort Worth knew Miss Pinson and her famous cooking. After she passed, her son opened Madia's as a tribute to his mother, and you could get some of the best soul food ever right there at Madia's on Enoch.
All right, we will be there. I believe it's February 23rd.
Yes.
February 23rd. So we're getting ready to sign off on the Commish Radio Show. We like to keep all the information ready for you because you're part of the Commish Nation. I'd like to send a shout out to all of those people who joined us. Alfonso Price has joined us as well. Clifton Mubarak has joined us. We have Commissioner John Lopez, and we also have Ty Stimson over in Fort Worth. Stokes Road over in Dallas. And Monica McCoy Purdy has joined us. She should be ready for judge, and hopefully we will have her on the show. And we have some people from, some people you may know. Rosalind Allen DeHorny has joined us. And also Marina Echo Latino. Hey, Marina is on from Echo Latino Radio. Yep. You're tuning in to the Commish Radio Show. When is election time?
Election is on May 4th, but I say voting starts on April the 22nd. And so let me just tell you this, and I am running not as a black candidate, I'm running as a candidate who happens to be black, but Fort Worth has never had a person of color to lead the city. In a city where our school system is almost 75% black and brown students, where our population is growing, where our brown population is growing, we have never had the leadership trust a person of color to lead that city when people of color are going to be the majority in that city.
All right. And a little bit of history before we bail out. The largest protest march ever held in Fort Worth was led by
Deborah Peoples and all those great ministers and community activists who came out and said that our criminal justice system is flawed, we need to fix it, and here we are over 20 years later still fighting that same battle. Ed, we got to fix it.
We got to fix it. Commish Radio Show, we got to fix it. Strip, we're going to play a couple of drops because, you know, we have to make ready for the next show that's coming on. And what's the next show?
It's the War Room, Women of God.
All right. And who's leading that?
It's Sonia Boucher.
So stay tuned. Fishbowl Radio Network. How can they listen to the Fishbowl Radio Network?
They can go to the website at fbrn.us, click on the gray stream, or download the free Fishbowl Radio Network app and click on the gray stream.
All right, and remember to join us on Twitter, EdGray1906, EdGray1906 on Instagram, and also get those clicks going on YouTube, Ed Gray the Commish. We will see you guys next week.
All right.
Look up, bro. Look up.
This is Ed Gray of the Commish Radio Show. You can catch us now on Wednesdays, 5 to 6 in the Red Bowl, followed by Howard's